And we are moving into section 5, hair removal. It is 15% of the exam and 11 questions. So just like skincare, 15% of the exam and 11 questions. This is one I like to call a gimme. This one, 444, it should be, everyone should rate very high in this. These 11 questions are give me questions. They're only going to ask you about contraindications and the different methods of hair removal. So they've made the hair removal information very short, very simple. Contraindications are going to be important, and we went through and we listed them. So clients with phlebitis, which is blood disorders, skin disorders, epilepsy, diabetes, hemophilia, or other contraindications will contraindicate waxing. Clients who have the following until physician's approval: treatment or product use, medical conditions or medications, skin conditions, scar tissue, thin, fragile skin, lack of sensitivities, areas that you want to avoid, like the nose, ears, eyelids, areolas, and nipples, pregnant women within their last trimester because of the laying, product allergies, and then contraindicated products and treatments should be stopped within 1 to 6 weeks prior to waxing, according to the physician's recommendation. And then when it comes to the methods, the only methods that you have to worry about are depilation, epilation, and permanent hair removal, which subsections into electrolysis, and that is the laser hair removal, IPL. That's more of the semi-permanent to permanent hair removal methods. So I actually want to go through to the chapter like we did with the other ones. And then let's look at hair removal as a chapter. So it's only asking you for contraindications and methods of hair removal. So I wouldn't worry about anything in the chapter that's not a contraindication or a method of hair removal. So the hair follicle and its appendages, I'm skipping the list of hair types. I may skim, but I'm not worried too much about. I am going to go ahead and worry about the hair growth phase, the anagen, catagen, telogen. You've all heard those three before: anagen first, catagen, telogen, ACT, ACT. I might note my conditions because we talked about in the other chapters that asked you for skin disorders and conditions. So hypertrichosis, hirsutism, all of those are conditions. So I would go ahead and study them and put them into my conditions section of the study guide, but not necessarily worry too much about them when it comes to hair removal, more so the disorder and disease part of it. From there, I would move on to the methods of hair removal. So our contraindications are covered pretty early. Temporary hair removal methods and hair removal reduction methods. So the difference between the methods, so there's two categories: temporary and permanent. And permanent reduction, temporary hair removal involves repeat treatment as hair grows, so waxing, and the hair comes back. And then permanent hair removal, where the dermal papilla is completely destroyed, making the regrowth impossible. So it's listing techniques such as waxing, sugaring, threading. You want to understand all of those techniques, but you also want to understand the vocabulary, meaning the depilation and what that is, epilation and what that is. So epilation, another temporary removal of hair, is epilation, the process of removing hair from the bottom of the follicle by breaking contact between the bulb and the papilla. The hair is pulled out of the follicle, which is tweezing, waxing, sugaring, and threading are all methods of epilation, versus depilation, which is the process of removing hair at or near the level of the skin. That's shaving and chemical. So Nair, using a razor, that's depilation. And then you have epilation, which is we're actually breaking contact between the bulb and the papilla and removing it from the follicle itself. I would understand each of those methods, and I would understand which falls in depilation, which falls in epilation. I would understand tweezing and electronic tweezing, all of my pros and cons for every method, and then same for the permanent. So then you go in to have the permanent hair removal and reduction. You have electrolysis, you have a laser hair removal, Electrolysis is the only proven method of hair removal recognized and given the designation permanent hair removal by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the American Medical Association, and it is an effective method on all hair and skin types. You then have electrolysis, which is blend. You have thermolysis and then galvanic electrolysis. 11 questions, but this is where it's coming from. You have laser and intense pulse light. I would absolutely be 100% confident with everything up to page 472. And then when you're moving into the essentials and the product and the ingredients, as long as it's not talking about contraindication, I wouldn't worry too much about it. And that's really it for wax. Wax is super short. It's only one chapter. So again, I would record myself reading the chapter up to that point. I would record myself reading the contraindications. I would make a little cheat list for each one, a little chart or flashcards. And then I would just go all in on that information. I wouldn't worry too much about the excess information from the hair removal chapter. Hair removal is really, like I said, it's very much so a give me. I wouldn't stress myself out about hair removal too much. Just focus on that chapter 11 from fundamentals.